Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I'm Tina Jha, you're watching Perspective. Following a significant and productive visit to the UK, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is now headed to the Maldives for a high-stakes, symbolic and strategic two-day state visit, which is his third one to the island nation, but the first by any head of state or government since President Mohamed Muizzu assumed office in 2023. Prime Minister Modi will be the guest of honour at the Maldives' 60th Independence Day celebrations on the 26th of July, a strong gesture that underlines a major reset in bilateral ties. You would recall when President Muizzu took office, the Maldives adopted a policy which was aimed at strengthening relations with China, reducing dependence on India and diversifying its ties with other countries. This policy was largely influenced by Mohammed Muizzu and his party's India Out campaign, domestic politics and a pro-China tilt, of course. However, over the past year, this relationship has seen a recalibration. What led to this diplomatic course correction? Have both sides worked to rebuild their relationship over the past year? What outcomes should we expect from the state visit of the Prime Minister to the Maldives? We'll discuss some of these aspects and much more on this edition of Perspective with two distinguished guests. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome on the program today former Ambassador Veena Sikri. Ambassador, always a pleasure to welcome you on the program. And I'm also pleased to welcome Professor Dr. Sriram Cholia, Dean, Jindal School of International Affairs. Dr. Cholia, glad to have you with us on this broadcast as well. Ambassador, so a president who came to power on an India Out campaign is today welcoming the Prime Minister of India, and that too as the guest of honor at the 60th Independence Day celebrations. All of this happening in less than 2 years. Quite a remarkable turnaround that's been, isn't it? Explain to us and our viewers what's led to this kind of a turnaround and a reset in ties that we are witnessing.
I think, first of all, we must accept that this is a great success for India's neighborhood-first foreign policy, that difficulties will always come with neighbors. Like living in the same mohalla, you will have problems, you will have difficulties, but how you tackle them, how you overcome them is the question. And I think that you're right, absolutely, that President Muizzu campaigned on an India Out policy, and there was so much angst about it at that time, and there was so much unhappiness about it. But the moment he got elected and tried to implement the India Out policy, it ran into numerous, shall I say, natural barriers, in the sense that, for example, he wanted the Indian pilots to leave and so on. But those planes, those helicopters, they were helping the people of Maldives, the sick people on different faraway islands. Maldives is a garland of islands. That's what the name Maldives means. It actually has Sanskrit origins. And connectivity between one island and another is the most difficult and expensive part of life in Maldives. And what India had gifted to them was these facilities with the pilots who would help in rescuing sick people, bringing them to the big hospitals in Malé and so on. And when that was going to disappear, it's the people. So first and foremost, I want to say that I think the first response to President Muizzu's India Out policy came from the people of Maldives. Yeah. The tourism, for example. So my God, if Indian tourism is going to stop, the entire economy of Maldives is going to collapse. So the Maldives Tourism Association and the individual tour operators said, no, we cannot have a situation like that. For some time, President Muizzu, I think, thought that maybe, there is China, the big brother, who will help us. And, at some point, China even sent water for the Maldives, saying this is fresh water from Tibet, which came on big ships. But can you imagine, is this sustainable? Can you go on doing this when from India, Maldives is importing water and rocks and stones and construction material, apart from vegetables and so many other things? So I think it's the sheer physicality of living next to each other in a mohalla that brought the people of Maldives to realize that this has to change. And I think President Muizzu, wanting to continue the support, he also understood. And then we know that President Muizzu has been twice to India. He came for the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Modi in June of last year, and also he came on a separate official visit as President of Maldives to India, which was a very successful visit. Right. We saw wonderful visuals of that. So now this return visit, I can tell you two other problems that are very serious in Maldives. And again, it's the people of Maldives are suffering. Radicalism. and drug addiction. These two are interlinked, and a lot of it is coming from Pakistan, where you have these the clerics, the Muslim clerics who are coming in to teach and are preaching radicalism. It's the young men of Maldives who are being affected by this. They get onto drugs, they believe in radicalism, and they can't work. They're not contributing to the economy. And I know because in my South Asia Women Network, I have a number of very strong and brave women of Maldives, and they're in despair about the youth of Maldives, that they are just giving in to radicalism and drugs and destroying their lives. So this is another area that Prime Minister Modi and President Muizzu are going to talk about, because if you want to overcome this problem of drugs and the problem of piracy and so on, there has to be a certain interoperability of the forces of the two sides, whether it's police or maritime forces and so on. And they're going to talk about this. So it shows that the relationship between India and Maldives is based on mutual benefit and mutual trust and respecting each other's sensitivities. It's a great honor that Prime Minister Modi has been invited as the special guest, chief guest for the 60th Independence Day celebrations. It's the first time that a foreign dignitary has been invited for these celebrations of the Independence Day. So it's a great honor that has been given to our Prime Minister in recognition of our Prime Minister having a completely open mind and wanting and willing to help the Maldives in every way in which they are ready. We are helping them with infrastructure, whether it is the airport, whether it is the harbor development. We are helping them with their defense support, whichever they want. Of course, China is breathing down Maldives' neck, heavy and fast, and wanting to come in a big way. And certainly they want to bring in their research ships and park them in Maldives and so on. So all these issues will be discussed. And we have seen that when a country is in trouble, it's India who gives the grant. India has given big grants, $500 million and more. And just like we did with Sri Lanka, when they were in the deep doldrums of the economic crisis, India came to their help. China just turned the other way. There was not even a word from them. Even on negotiating the IMF loans, China hardly helped. It's India who had to, do a lot of the heavy lifting on that. But India is willing and wanting and happy to help its neighbors. I think this has permeated to the people of Maldives, and I hope that the visit will come up with definite agreements on defense, on technology, infrastructure development, education, on maritime security. And we are together in so many institutions, the Colombo Security Conclave, there's the IORA and many others, SARC and so many
Certainly,
others.
we will discuss about some of the expected outcomes, and also there are talks between both countries regarding a free trade agreement as well, about an investment treaty. But before we get into all of that, Dr. Cholia, your perspective first on the significance of this visit, and particularly in context of what the ambassador said, that despite provocations from the Maldivian side soon after President Muizzu took over, we recall the kind of statements that were made against India and our Prime Minister. As a mature country, India has been the first responder to Maldives, and this comes from the Maldivian authorities themselves. They've been quoted saying that India has been the first responder to our distress calls, both in terms of economic and strategic spheres. So for India, we've been there as a mature neighbor in line with our neighborhood first policy. But the question here again is about the turnaround. What's your perspective on perhaps some of the biggest factors that could have led to this? And how significant is it that since President Muizzu assumed office, Prime Minister Modi now happens to be the first foreign head of state who is visiting the country, and that too on an occasion marking the 60th Independence Day celebrations of the country?
Yes, Tina, it's quite a remarkable 360 degrees turnaround, and a lot of it owes to our low profile and patient diplomacy. Although there was anger in India and calls for boycotting tourism of the Maldives and so on, that was mostly at the social level. It was not a government call, and in fact, as Ambassador Sikri was saying, geography is a given, right? I mean, geography, you have to live with it and work within it, rather than you can't just wish away a neighbor, right? Or you can't just destroy a neighbor through boycotts. So I think over time, what has happened is we showed our generosity. You see, the development assistance, for example, was around 470 crores. in 2024, and we increased it to 600 crores.
Right.
You know, we have offered them major swap lines for financial stability, by which they could recover and by which they could stabilize debt-ridden and moribund economy. We have, brought them into all these regional conclaves and formations like the Colombo Security and others. So through these measures, what we have done is we have shown that how a big country can handle a small country with a sense of equity, as well as without snobbishness, without accusing and pointing fingers in public, and showing, even I would say, a sense of humility. Okay, there was a change in government there was an election, they've got a different approach. They say they want to diversify or balance their foreign policy. Okay, but without India, how can there be balance? So we are saying, okay, we are also there in the mix, and we cannot prevent any country from dealing with the Chinese. But what we can do is offer them better alternatives. So I think we have offered them a lot of concrete alternatives. And I think the fact that India did not try to become punitive or revengeful because of those petty, public remarks by some officials in the Maldives, and we maintained a kind of a, cool temperament, composed approach. That is the essence of diplomacy, right? We can't operate out of anger or frustration. We have to deal with these neighbors in a way that shows that India will always be there for them. India is, going out of the way to help them. India has a big heart. It's a big country with a big heart. So I think that's what we have demonstrated. And at the people-to-people level also, I think we have built so many bridges there. It even spans across any partisan divides. So although President Muizzu came to power with the India out and all that, I dare say a majority of the people of the Maldives, a significant majority, not even simple 51%, maybe 75 or at least 80%, I feel, actually favor India. So, and they understand that India is like, a benevolent neighbor that has the means and the capacity. And as Ambassador Sikri was saying, even the geographical contiguity to be able to respond and to come to the rescue whenever they need at a very, in a timely manner. And as far as the Chinese go, I think the proof of the pudding lies in eating it. And the expectation that the Chinese will come for bailouts did not pan out. The far-fetched ambitions of bringing China in as a security partner to give military assistance also has not panned out as much. But of course, small island states, small countries always play this card of, trying to extract benefits from all big countries, by pitting one against the other. So to that extent, we understand. Sri Lanka was mentioned. Nepal is also similar. A lot of these countries try to, woo different sides and gain advantages from all of them. We understand that game. But we are playing the game at a more sophisticated level, and with, like I said, as a degree of humility and a degree of patience, rather than being whimsical or impulsive or emotional. So rational foreign policy is what has brought the Maldives back on track for us.
I think not just the Maldives, as you rightly mentioned, Ambassador also said, it's also been the case with Sri Lanka, with Nepal to some extent. For the Maldives, Ambassador, what we understand is the reset or the rebalancing in the diplomatic relations that we are seeing currently perhaps stems from the most fundamental need of theirs to stabilize their own economy. And that's where India has stood firmly as a reliable partner with mutual respect. We are not laying them under any kind of trap of debt. But given the earlier tension that we witnessed during the elections there, and even after President Muizzu assumed charge, the tension over troop presence. So how much of trust can we actually say has been restored over the past year? We understand a lot of diplomatic efforts have gone into the reset that we are witnessing now, but trust is something that takes time to come back, to be restored.
Yes, actually a lot of it is because of this kind of subterranean anti-Indian campaign that is mounted by many people. We've seen that, for example, in Bangladesh with great ferocity, actually.
Right.
And similarly in the Maldives, we saw this kind of an anti-Indian campaign where everything is brought under the umbrella of lack of trust, as you're saying, that if there were the people helping with the aircraft and the helicopters, oh, but these are pilots, so that's dangerous, it's affecting our sovereignty. And if there are anybody, if the troops were there, oh, this is going to affect our sovereignty. But India, as a Professor Sriram Churiya correctly said, has been very patient and has said, fine, the issue is important. We want to help your people. If we will send technicians, otherwise, we will send civilian pilots. So we have been able to react in a very calm and collected manner, focusing at all times on benefiting the people of Maldives. And I think this is a very important lesson from what has happened in Maldives, that it is our success in reaching out to the people that has actually brought back the trust, because the government also cannot turn down the will of the people all the time. I mean, as I said, the tourism industry is their single largest contributor to the economy. And at one time, there was so much anger in India, there was a boycott. And in fact, visits were being cancelled, packages were being turned down, and a lot of people dropped out, and there was complete panic. And the people dropping out, by the way, in India was a very natural, spontaneous response by them. There was nothing from the government side at all to say that do this or do not at all. But it was just, this is the kind of reaction now you get from the people, that we will not take this from anyone. Why should you talk about India out? What are we doing to harm you? We have, rather India has responded. So what we have done with great patience, for example, we had this very successful high impact community development projects where you build a number of projects which have high impact on the community, whatever they need in different parts. It may be a school, it may be a bridge, it may be a clinic, it may be a hospital, and these are being done with great success. And then if you see the figures in 2024, it was zero, because obviously from after coming to power, said, no, we don't want any of these. But now we have again resumed. And again, 13 of them had been built and completed and are now, ready to be handed over. So gradually, by building the trust and pointing out, because if a community on a remote island needs a particular facility, it might be a drinking water facility, it might be a sewage management facility, whatever they need. So these are the kind of community development projects that we have taken up with great success in our neighborhood. And that really brings back the trust of the people. Because if you're building a project like that, it's for the benefit of the people. It's nothing to do with what can come back to India from that project. It's just for the benefit. And I think this kind of projects, high impact, community based, are greatly relevant, because there's so much poverty as in some parts of India. There are poor districts in many parts of South Asia, our neighboring countries. Similarly, there are poor districts. Help them, see what they need: education, giving scholarships, medical treatment. People come to Kerala in large numbers from the Maldives for medical treatment, for studies, and we're not denying them those facilities. When those people were here, we didn't ask them to go back. We said, okay, let us see how it works. We were willing to extend the visas. So with great patience and skillful diplomacy, our External Affairs Minister visited Maldives as well in between to prepare for these visits and to see how the implementation of the earlier decisions was going. So we focused, in addition to these small projects, high impact community development, we focused on major infrastructural projects, the Greater Malay Connectivity Project, the Uthuru Harbour, the Falu Harbour Development Project. So these are again very major from the Maldives people's point of view, because they see it as helping the tourists coming to Maldives, giving jobs to the local people. But I think we have to do more. As I told you about the youth, in Maldives, so much of the time they have to look at getting labor from outside, because their youth is unwilling to do some of it. So, this needs a lot of the skills development is needed. I hope that there will be agreements on this capacity building and skills development. I think the women of Maldives are very strong, and I sincerely hope there will be some projects to strengthen further the leadership capacity and the participation of women in not only in the economy but in politics and so on. And it's been quite remarkable how we are able, from a very stormy beginning, we are able to now have a very normal, natural, and positive conversation with with the leadership of Maldives and the people of Maldives, so that they have invited our Prime Minister for this very significant event.
Certainly.
And
So sustained diplomatic efforts, our development partnership, treating our partner countries with mutual respect is something that has brought us to this state of reset, sort of rebalancing in our ties with Maldives. Coming to the outcomes, Professor Cholia, alongside both leaders taking stock of the progress in how we are cooperating in various sectors, what we are hearing is a free trade agreement and investment treaty are reportedly also under discussion. What kind of economic deliverables do you think we can expect from this island country, or from an FTA emerging between India and Maldives? How can it benefit both sides?
Yeah, I mean, given the size of the Maldives, very small in terms of population, we have fairly robust trade volumes, which is around 500 million US per annum. So easily we can double, triple, quadruple that. I mean, through FTA. And there are sectors where the Maldives is competitive. I mean, fisheries, for example, is obviously the #1 field,
Right.
And there are also some services trade which can benefit the Maldives from the Indian side. So I think they have got some legs, that the trade partnership, investment. Already some of our biggest companies are there, especially in the hospitality. For example, the Tata Group, the Taj hotels. It's one of the best and the greatest, tourist resort in the Maldives is run by Indian companies. So we are already there, and there will be more on the table. And I think these financial, interoperability is also happening now with the RuPay system, for example, our UPI and all of them being accessible there. This will also benefit the tourist flows in particular. And we will be able to create more job opportunities for young people in the Maldives through this kind of financial integration. And this is something that's, India's strength. We have the digital public infrastructure, DPI, and those kind of things are really appealing to small island nations, because they are, they don't have land connectivity, and therefore they will need these kind of linkages across the oceans. And of course, always climate change is a very critical area for island archipelagos like the Maldives. And so healthcare, environment, financial inclusion, these are the areas where I think we could make huge strides in the economic relationship. And I think now what is clear from this whole cycle from the India out to the red carpet for Prime Minister Modi, this whole cycle, what it's showing is that, India is indispensable. It's not like we are bragging about it, and we are not saying we defeated China. I think that is a wrong approach. What we are saying is, we are there to stay. We are like omnipresent, and we are there to stay. And we respect their sensibilities. When the Muizzu government came in, they said, you take out the armed forces, the 70 odd people we had there for humanitarian evacuation. So he said, okay, we accepted it. We did not, fight it. So what I'm saying is that we accommodate the interests and the concerns of this. So even on economic matters, sometimes people say, India is a giant, and the Maldives is so weak, and how can we trade with India? There are some people who talk like that, and it will be unequal and unfair. But you look at the trade balance, and you look at what we are trying to do to improve their manufacturing capacities to export more. It shows that we are actually a benevolent neighbor. And that is something that's coming across, not through our words or rhetoric. We are not like Chinese who talk about quote unquote win-win cooperation, but it's actually a zero-sum game. When we say, mutual benefit, it really is mutual benefit, and they are seeing the results, and therefore the economic relationship will go forward.
Certainly, and that's shown in how maturely India has handled the situation. There was no knee-jerk reaction from the government despite the provocations, and through sustained efforts, as both of you have pointed out, we've clearly shown that we are a partner, a reliable one, and anything but a bully, something that India was also branded in the initial months. But coming back to not just the symbolism, but the substance that this visit of the Prime Minister has to offer. Another area that is being spoken about, Ambassador, is renewable energy cooperation and how we can up our cooperation in that area. Where do you see India coming in, or what role do you see India playing in supporting Maldives' renewable energy goals? How do you also see it tying into India's own energy diplomacy in the region, particularly in the global south?
I think renewable energy is a very important area. The whole energy sector is important, but India has had great successes in renewable energy sector. We have set very stringent goals for ourselves, and we are well on the way to achieving those goals. In some areas, whether it may be solar power or even wind energy, we have even overachieved, which is very good. So we are willing to share this technology with our neighboring countries. At the International Solar Alliance, as you know, based in Delhi, jointly inaugurated by President Macron of France and Prime Minister Modi some years ago. So we are willing to share all of this. Solar energy could be very easily something that could help remote villages, remote islands in Maldives, because of the island topography, it's very difficult to build transmissions lines and so on. It's almost impossible. So solar energy makes a lot of sense. Wind energy makes a lot of sense because wind energy, again, with the seas nearby, there's a lot of gusty winds blowing. Even when it's raining, these winds are blowing, and they can, be used for generating power, and that can be self-sufficient. So, small-scale renewable energy projects is a very valuable area for Maldives because it can bring self-sufficiency. In Maldives, because of the island, the scattered island nature of their geography, it is very difficult for major industries to come up. So MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises play a very big role, and many of these are run by women. And they despair because they said that in Malay, everything is imported from outside, either from China or from Thailand or some such country, and their own products, these MSME products made by women in remote islands, never really get to the market at all. So there's a lot of help that we can do for them in marketing of MSMEs, in making these women economically empowered through their own activities which they are already doing. So I think that this is one area that we have to help them, because we have to look at it not only from the big connectivity projects, which of course we are doing, but also from the bottoms up, from the grassroots level. Go to the women there and help them to learn to run their MSMEs in a way that will bring them a return. And it's tremendous what they have. They have so much in terms of natural resources, and now the products of these natural resources, whether it is growing specialized vegetables, whether even your coconuts plantations and so on, can give you so much return if you exploit it properly. Environmentally sustainable, but also in a way that will bring a value added return to the owner of those people. And we have a lot of technologies like that from our states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and others, which can easily be shared. So I think that we have to create these state level, people to people, institution to institution level matters, because going to the grassroots, going to the MSMEs will again show the people of Maldives that we care about their welfare and we care about their economic empowerment and their economic growth. Because only if those people grow will the economy grow. And of course, their tourism sector is very big, but tourism sector is like one island is one resort. It doesn't really touch the people so much. And even in the tourism sector, you have a lot of pollution coming in. For example, in these tourism islands, I've been to Maldives several times, you have these sewage pipes going way out into the ocean, maybe 1 kilometer or more. But now it's coming back. The tide is bringing it back. You have all kinds of black seaweed. So I remember when we had gone there last time for a program, we even told the ladies how that black seaweed can be dried and converted into paper. So, these kind of basic help to the people, the ordinary people of Maldives, that they are looking for. And this is what they think India can give them. Just like they feel that the education system in India is very important for them. They don't go to China all the way to study or things like that. China will come and, talk to they believe only in talking to the minister. China has very deep pockets and they're willing to, line the pockets of others. But India has a different, totally grassroots centered, totally reality centered, mutual benefit approach, which you are seeing that the people of Maldives are conveying to their own leaders. Right. That, we can't do without it, And multiple sectors. I think defense cooperation is important. I told you about how they are struggling with their drugs problem and the radicalism problem. They recognize that, although they're all devout and they're all religious, but radicalism is something they don't want. We're seeing that even in Bangladesh. The Jamaat Islami wants to lead the country and have a Islamized nation, if not Sharia law. But the people are saying, no, we are very religious, but we don't want Sharia law. So it's like that. You have to appeal to the the sensible aspect in every person's makeup, and that is what we have succeeded greatly with
Clearly,
Maldives.
you're right. So the India Out campaign may have resulted in short-term political gains, but it perhaps didn't bode well when it came to the long-term stability and long-term development aspirations of the people. But that is where India handled things like a mutual partner, a reliable partner, and something that both of you have discussed. We have huge expectations. Both sides have huge expectations in terms of the outcomes that will come about from this visit. But very quickly, Dr. Cholia, I'll take one last question, and this pertains to the strategic and maritime security. Given the strategic location and the significance of Maldives and its importance in the geopolitical scenario, when we talk of a reset, can we also expect a turnaround in the kind of defense and strategic cooperation that I've had with Maldives, or is it too early to talk about it?
No, we are ramping up. In fact, we have elucidated a vision for a comprehensive maritime security partnership. It's not only economic, and the trainings are increasing. Their personnel are being trained. We are doing joint naval exercises. We are part of the Colombo Security Conclave. And more importantly, their capacity building. A very small country with not much coastal surveillance and maritime domain awareness knowledge. We are still providing the necessary equipment and the assets for doing all these things. And I think going forward, you see, we will want these Chinese so-called research vessels, as they call it, or the spy ships, from docking there. And I'm very hopeful that we will be able to achieve that. And Indian Navy is quite, dominant in the western end of the Indian Ocean, especially. And there is no way we are going to allow Chinese submarines or other stealth vehicles to come in there and to be lodged or positioned there. They cannot attain a base in that part of they already have one at the western end in Djibouti. So I think Maldives we are going to secure, and at the same time these non-traditional threat, illegal fishing. Most of the Chinese trawlers are the ones that are depriving Maldivian fishermen of their fishing stock. Right. So there are a lot of non-traditional threats there for which we will have to guard and to give them the equipment to defend. And lastly, given after Operation Sindoor, Maldives is on the towards the Arabian Sea. So it's very important that we make sure that this region is also safe from Islamist extremism and fundamentalism. That's also an area on which we will be working closely with the Maldivians to ensure that it remains peaceful and not a hotbed for radicalism, which can then affect the whole region, because the Pakistanis are also trying to, create that kind of consciousness in the Maldives in the past, and we will need to guard against that too. So there are a lot of security elements, conventional and non-conventional, in which this partnership is going to go forward. And of course, they will say that they will also ask for military assistance from China. But frankly speaking, I think we have the means to be able to preclude that in this region.
Absolutely. So with that, we'll have to call it a wrap on this edition of Perspective. What emerges after this visit in terms of the agreements, in terms of the announcements, we'll have to wait for that. But the good news is that for now, the India-Maldives relations is back on track, and fortunately, this time on a stable, long-term track, as we've discussed with both our guests. Thank you once again, Ambassador and Professor, for joining us on the program with your valuable insights. And to you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.